Hello everyone and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 9th of March. Is it the 9th? No, the 10th of March already. How time flies. I hope you guys have been having an absolutely fantastic day and welcome back to answer some more of your brilliant questions about the ancient world. So we will be jumping in very, very shortly with our first question. But before that, of course, it is very excitedly this week, Prize Week. Yes, this is where we look back through the questions that we've answered that you guys have sent in over the past month or so, and we pick the best question, and that person gets a prize. So we're looking back through all the questions that we've had. Now, it's been a difficult one this time because obviously we've had the excitement of the Lego Q&A as well, and kind of the unveiling of International Lego Classicisms Day, and the fact that I was very, very, very honoured to be awarded the International Lego Classicist of the Year award this year, and I am halfway through along with my fiance in building the Lego Colosseum. We are about 4,500 pieces into the total of over 9,000 pieces that are of the Lego Colosseum. And once that Colosseum is finished, we will be circulating some photos of our Lego figures sitting proudly in the midst of the Colosseum. And great, please do send in your ideas about where the Lego figures should be placed. Are we going to be on the sandy arena floor fighting to the death as a gladiator? Are we going to be sitting in the Imperial box? Are we going to be in one of the senatorial positions, or just in one of the cheap seats up in the balconies? Let us know. It would be great to get your thoughts. But we are not going for a Lego question who has won the prize this week. No. We are going, in fact, to the South America. And we are going to Ricardo Bartales Villacorta question who comes from Peru. And he was asking whether there is a relationship between the Greek god Dionysus and the Hindu god Shiva. And that got us thinking about all the overlaps between particularly Dionysus and Shiva, well, at least from the Greek perspective, not necessarily so much from the Indian perspective, and indeed the fuller, wider range of interactions and assimilations and syncretizations that happen between different divinities, different religions within the ancient world. And I absolutely love the fact that we had someone from Peru asking this question of me sitting here in the UK about what was happening between the interaction between two ancient gods in India. Truly a global question and a global comment. So hello Tracy, hello Elizabeth, hello everyone. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in, and congratulations to Ricardo. You have won this month's Q&A prize, which you get to decide, because we're getting to this time of year now where, does a calendar quite cut it in March with the 3 months already gone? How has the year gone that quickly? So you get a choice, Ricardo. If you can email in to michaelscottacademic@gmail.com or contact us through the Facebook page, then you can decide whether you want a calendar, whether you want a copy of my book designed for children about ancient Greece, if you have some children who might be interested, is sort of key stage 2 to 3, so up to sort of 10. I suspect it might be quite useful for them. Or you can have a copy of Ancient Worlds, my book Ancient Worlds, a kind of global history of the ancient world. So let us know what you would like, and thank you so much to all of you for your amazing questions. It is your questions that make this a Q&A tick. And Ricardo Bartales Villacorta from Peru, with your question about Dionysus and Shiva, you are the winner this time. So thank you all so much indeed. I was looking back at the fact that we started these monthly prizes back in September 2018, and we have now a long list of winners going over the past couple of years. Absolutely extraordinary to see, and it is quite fundamental, the range of people who have won. There are no people who have won twice this grand prize. Everyone is a winner only one time so far, at least, unless you come up with an absolutely corking question that we can't avoid the next time. You may well win a second time, but it might be fun for us to publish the list of winners going back all the way to 2018 on the Facebook page at some point, just to sort of see, and perhaps we could even find their questions, bring that collection of winning questions together from 2018 through to 2022. I think that would be a rather fun game. In fact, as we get through towards the anniversary of the Q&A in September this year, I think that is something we should definitely do and bring together all the great questions. So moving on to the new great questions that have come in for us today. Sarah Scotty has been asking, where can I find information about Roman graffiti that isn't letters, numbers, or pictures of genitalia. I'm slightly changing the way you phrase that, Sarah, just in case there are children watching and listening in. But yes, where can you find information about Roman graffiti? Well, kind of, you're quite right that this does tend to capture the imagination, doesn't it? And the kind of, particularly the journalistic air is when we've got a sort of rude or erotic graffiti of one form or another. But a really useful website I always find is actually just called the Ancient Graffiti Project. And this is actually run partly and sponsored partly by the Mellon Foundation. So this is a serious research project which seeks to bring and make available to everyone all the graffiti that is known across Herculaneum and Pompeii, of which, of course, some will be a little bit rude, but not by any means all of it. And so you can have a good search through, both in the original and in translation, on the Ancient Graffiti Project. So all you need to do is Google Ancient Graffiti Project, and it should come up with the website, and then you can search for to your heart's content for graffiti of exactly the kind of theme that you are particularly interested in. So Sarah, I hope that gives you many happy hours of viewing. Then we've had a question from Latifa Walker, moving into a completely different area, eyebrows. Now, this is where we all start looking at our eyebrows, and I'm sort of looking at a little picture of myself on screen. I'm suddenly noticing my eyebrows, well, quite. So Latifa is asking about the ancient Greek unibrow. Now, Latif is asking about she's heard about this sort of saying that kind of the way that ancient women were represented in ancient Greece, particularly in statuary and kind of depictions and descriptions of the idealized woman, actually gave them a unibrow rather than two arched or differentiated eyebrows. And why is Latifa's first question. Was this so appealing? Was it for religious or beauty purposes? Was it the wearer of the unibrow, asked Latifa, or the male gaze that found it so appealing and insisted on it? Good afternoon, Latifa. Good to see you listening in. Hello, Shelley. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much indeed for joining. Well, the unibrow. We have gone from ancient graffiti to the unibrow. Fiona, yes, I am currently on BBC Two. Yes, you're quite right. As we speak, it is the end of the Sicily programme as well. So simultaneously, you can have me live on the Q&A and me from a couple of years ago kind of presenting in Sicily in episode 1 of the Sicily series on BBC Two right now, and episode 2 is tomorrow. And if you really, really, really want to have something in stereo vision, if you can tune in at the same time to PBS or Nova UK, apparently across all of this week there is Ancient Invisible Cities, and I think it's Italy's Invisible Cities also going live. So you could have stereo vision, Michael, from 3 different eras, and you can compare how much I've aged to the live today. Hope you're enjoying, Fiona, the Sicily series, one of my favourite ever to make, and it's kind of my goal perhaps in the future to be able to go back and sort of do some more series focused around islands around the Mediterranean, because that would be, I think, an absolutely fascinating project to get in and under the skin, just like we did in Sicily, but to do that for Malta, to do it for Rhodes, to do it for Crete, to do it for kind of some of the other kind of major islands all around the Mediterranean. This would be a really great fun and thing to do. Sardinia, Corsica, obviously absolutely fabulous, but kind of we must wait our turn. We must mate our time. Maybe we can crowdsource and all go and make the film together. So Latia is asking about unibrows. Now, this is really, really interesting. I had to get into a little bit of research, a bit of digging on this. My knowledge about the preferred ancient Greek unibrow, I have to say, was lacking. So thank you, Latifa, for posing a question that has sent me down a little rabbit hole of research. So it talks about it's really interesting. There's a fantastic kind of encyclopedia of hairstyles that you can look up online. It's available as a Google book as well. And it kind of goes through all different periods of history. And you can think about how hair, both on the head and indeed on the eyebrows, has changed in style over the different eras. And talking about the ancient Greece era in particular, they did go in for a bit of darkening of the eyebrows to make them much more visible. And that was done with, you could use a bit of soot, askprofmcscott, as it's kind of called in ancient Greek, to darken up your eyebrow. But you could also, and this apparently was done, use fake eyebrows. In fact, they made fake eyebrows out of dyed goat's hair. So you think fake eyebrows and fake eyelashes are bad enough today, but imagine adding a pair of dyed goat-haired eyebrows just to give you that extra sort of dark and bushy look as part of your female attire in antiquity. I hope they didn't smell too much, but I suspect it rather did. Whereas the Romans were very much more into their plucking of eyebrows, plucking and singeing. There was a lot of plucking and singeing going on in the Roman world, which there doesn't seem to have been so much in the Greek world. But across the two, and particularly thinking about kind of Latifa's vision of this Greek unibrow, actually it seems to be that there was a very sort of subtle differentiation going here. Because some of the quotes that come to us through the ancient sources, so people like Petronius talk about eyebrows that almost meet, the perfect eyebrows almost meet, close beside her eyes. Another writer, Anacreon, talks about eyebrows that neither join nor sever. We've got this idea that they're sort of supposed to kind of meet, but not actually properly meet. So not a total unibrow, I guess we would say, but perhaps a kind of, I think one of the descriptions I saw, a sort of blurred joining in the middle might be appropriate, if not a complete unibrow. So not separate, but not unibrow. Sort of blurred joining in the middle is considered the ideal version. Now, as to why this is, and what this is about, and what this is bringing forward, well, I think that's anyone's guess, and I can't even begin to get into it now. But it turns out that kind of there was a very, very complex sort of standard about eyebrows. Now, Tracy says, what about the men? Absolutely, indeed. Well, we don't seem to get too many, because there aren't that many female writers writing about what their ideal man would look like. But this is quite new. And then we have to think, are we thinking about it in terms of portraiture? Because particularly within Roman portraiture and Roman Republican portraiture, there is a kind of style called verism, which sounds a bit like it should be about the truth, shouldn't it? As if it was a photograph, but actually it's really about making sure that the Roman man has sort of authority, auctoritas, severitas, dignitas, all the key Roman virtues. And that basically meant making them look old. So giving them lots of wrinkle lines and thus a kind of older looking set of eyebrows, not too, perhaps really extra bushy and old, or perhaps kind of thinned out and slightly grey, is the way forward. Haru says, hello from the Scottish borders, hello, and hello from Mexico as well, I saw coming up on the chat a moment or two ago. Hello, welcome to this Q&A. You didn't think you'd be talking about ancient Greek eyebrows, did you? But this is kind of what we've got. Frida Kahlo's unibrow is absolutely kind of a nice example of neither meeting nor not meeting. A sort of blurred joining of the two is kind of what we need to imagine. So absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Latifa, for a brilliant question. And we're moving on to another one, which is from Carolyn Nicklin. She has started doing a very short course on Roman history and started wondering, what was it about Roman culture that was so contagious that everyone joined them? All right, what was it about Rome that was so fabulous that people wanted to join? Well, here's an interesting question, Caroline, and I hope you're very much enjoying your course. Well, I think there are lots of reasons here, and do shout out here on the Q&A if you've got a reason what makes you think that the Roman world was so sort of, in Caroline's words, kind of contagious that everyone wants to join. And I think it's a number of different things. I think we're into push and pull here, but shout out your ideas, because on the one hand, I think Rome is a kind of model, kind of the way it's just set up is a sort of ever-expanding model of wanting to expand territorially. Economics, says Clive, and bring in, that's absolutely key and really, really part of it. Kind of better to be within inside the block, trading and being able to make money off a fantastic trading and connected network than necessarily outside it. That's certainly how connections with Roman Britain began. Before it was Roman Britain, there was lots of trade going backwards and forwards across the channel before the Romans ever stepped foot here militarily. But there was something about the way the Roman machine was set up that it was ever hungry for expansion, at least until kind of you get into the imperial period, when it starts to vaguely, at points in time at least, recognize its own boundaries, or at least the kind of where it should possibly lay down its boundaries. And you get things like Hadrian's Wall. Kind of the Roman machine does kind of vociferously expand, and so the kind of it is a very well-oiled military machine. So when it's contagious joining or whether it's contagious expansion is another idea. But once you are inside, William Moulton puts it brilliantly, Pax Romana. There we go. The idea of Roman peace, that once you were in the Roman hood, once you were in the family, there was a certain amount of peace and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just, confident continuation on the same level, kind of a certain amount of continuity that you could expect and look forward to in a very otherwise uncertain world. That made it a very, very attractive choice. And there's also a really interesting thing here about how the Romans actually chose to govern. Now, if you put a foot out of line, right, and if you were on the outside, you would have the Roman legions marching towards you, and it would be a very, very brutal kind of put down. The Romans were very good at turning up and very, very viciously putting down anyone who opposed them. But once that was done, once you were incorporated, once you were just kind of getting on as part of the model, the Roman model of government was extraordinarily light touch. And actually, as long as you sort of got on and you provided the taxes when they were required through to the central Roman system, and you didn't cause too much trouble, and you didn't happen to have an individual Roman governor who was a real kind of git out to kind of line their own pockets, then actually you had quite a nice, relaxed and self-directed lifestyle. Roman governance, absolute model for light touch kind of global governance, in complete contrast to the ancient Greek model of governance, and particularly even to Athenian democratic model of governance, which was absolutely people heavy. The Athenian democracy at the height of its empire had far more kind of people per square mile of territory that were involved in the governance of it than the Roman world ever did. So that kind of really light touch, really clever set of governance, really important. But then, as people have been pointing out on the chat, it's also about how Rome did a rather good job of sort of amalgamating cultures and making you feel part of the Roman world even though you had been outside it. So one of the great things they quite liked to do in battle, obviously, when they were about to conquer a group, was do a religious ceremony where they called out to the gods of the group that they were about to conquer, saying, "Come and join the Roman pantheon, come and be part of our gang," instead, or nicking the other side's gods, getting them to desert potentially their own side before the battle had even begun. It was a brilliant military technique, but it was also made a great, strong religious and cultural and political and social statement about what it was like to be on the inside. There's room for everyone in this rather wide family. And that allowed not only people to get on in terms of governance in the way that they wanted once they'd accepted the Roman yoke, but actually get on in terms of their own culture, their own religions, their own kind of societal norms, without them having to completely shift and change to become a kind of bespoke Roman. So what was so contagious about being Roman was that it was such a big and open family to be part of once you had accepted it. So there's lots of good reasons kind of why the Roman model expanded so brilliantly and so successfully up to a point over the first couple of centuries, or rather the last couple of centuries BCE, and into the early imperial period. Carolyn, thank you so much indeed for your question. Brilliant as always. Now, we have to, and thank you also for your comments as well and kind of ideas coming through. We have to take into account some of the stuff that's in the news and some of the events that are coming up. So from the Daily Mail, and of course this would be from the Daily Mail, X-rated paintings that reveal ancient Rome's fascination with nudity and lovemaking are being preserved in the ashes of Pompeii for 2,000 years. As if the graffiti of the genitalia wasn't enough, there'll be a new exhibition celebrating Roman art's obsession with sex in Pompeii that will be at the Pompeii Archaeological Park starting on April 14th. So if you're going to go to Italy and you're going to go to Pompeii, you might as well throw yourself in there and enjoy the sex exhibition while you're there. In the UK, lavish Roman mosaic is the biggest found in London for 50 years. It's been the largest unearthed, the site believed to have been the venue for high-ranking officials to lounge in while being served food and drink, dating from the late 2nd century to early 3rd century. We've got a flower and geometric pattern that was a thrilling, once-in-a-lifetime find, says the Museum of London Archaeology. Brilliant. Okay, I'm so glad that more is coming to bear. And in fact, actually, this is the first time I've ever heard any positive news about HS2. And the Observer is talking about the fact that HS2 is the ticket to Britain's ancient history. It's given rise, the early excavations creating the route for HS2, or the first section of HS2, have given rise to the biggest archaeological excavations in British history, with over more than 100 digs. Entire lost towns have been unearthed along the route, radically changing our understanding of the ancient past. So it's good to see that something positive can come out of HS2, if little else, and an awful lot of money being spent. And then I also wanted to flag this. We've had a great I really enjoyed this post in the Antigone Journal, Communicating Classics, how social media helps create classicists. And this is by Molly Willett, who's the Access and Outreach Coordinator at the Faculty of Classics at the University of Cambridge, and talking about classics and social media. Now, we were just doing this in class over the last couple of weeks for our public engagement in classics module that we're running at Warwick at the moment, talking about the advantages of Twitter versus Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. The students were trying to encourage me into TikTok, and I sort of went, no way, Jose. But Molly will know all about this, and you can pick up on her great article there about how kind of different people have kind of worked with different media so brilliantly to create personalities and to push forward our understanding of classics. Lee says, in centuries from now, archaeologists will dig up HS2 and wonder what it was. I suspect they will. If any of you have ever seen this, you'll love that. I know you'll love this. Motel of the Mysteries. Have a Google of Motel of the Mysteries, which is this wonderful line drawing series imagining that an American motel has been covered in a deep ash eruption, just like Pompeii, frozen in time. And it's a culture that we don't have any written sources from, and so archaeologists have to excavate the motel and work out from first principles what they think things are. And it's a kind of skit on how often we get archaeological interpretation wrong. So we see people picking up loo seats and putting them over their heads as if they're grand necklaces, and trying to work out what the body in the room lying prostrate on this high covered table looking towards a large box on one side which is set up high above everything else, and a possible representation of a divinity might be, while in the hands of the skeleton lies a small controller which is pointed in the direction of the representation of the divinity. And obviously it's somebody dying watching television, but your mind can run riot with kind of what the archaeological interpretations are. Harris's book Second Sleep does just that, says Diane Burt. Have a look at those. Lee Edmund, I can remember when all these fields were skyscrapers, exactly, and have a look for Motel of the Mysteries when you can online as well. It's absolutely brilliant. What's on? There is going to be an evening of live ancient Greek music at the Science Museum on Friday the 6th of May. So we were there a couple of weeks ago talking about when worlds collide, bringing digital media and digital technology to help us uncover the ancient world. Next, you're getting live ancient Greek music. Do go and have a listen. But you can easily hear live ancient music also before the 6th of May. I have something to tell you about very live, very recent. Tickets are launching tomorrow, and it's happening at Warwick. Yes, at Warwick University on the 19th, 20th and 21st of April, we are having our Resonate Festival, Campus Festival. 2 evenings, 19th and 21st, and then a whole family day on the 20th. Is jam-packed with totally free events. This is where Warwick researchers, Warwick public engagers, plus some very, very special external invited guests are going to be coming along with a whole series of entertainers and street shows to have a massive takeover of campus and a brilliant festival, which will be our kind of university culmination to the City of Culture year that Coventry has been enjoying this year. Now, the Resonate Festival is very close to my heart because it's being organised by the Warwick Institute of Engagement, the institute that I've helped set up at Warwick over the last 18 months, and which I now run as a large part of my job at the university. And it really is going to be an absolutely fantastic event. So it's during the Easter holidays. If you've got your kids, come along for the school day on Wednesday, the 20th of April, and be part of kind of an absolutely amazing time on campus. And one of those events is going to be live ancient music. Another is going to be me talking about fake news and ancient Greek democracy. There'll be some Roman cooking going on, as well as a whole host of other amazing events, not just from the ancient world, but from all time periods and all cultural sectors, and even some science stuff. And I'm sure they'll have some stuff exploding in the background as well, if you like that sort of thing. So come along to Resonate up at the university. I hope you will be able to join us there and come and say a big hello. In terms of podcasts that I wanted to flag, well, we've got Against the Law podcast. You remember I did a podcast with these guys a little while ago talking about ancient buildings, but they've brought out a new one about natural disasters, and they've been talking with an absolutely fantastic scholar called Jerry Toner, who is a brilliant guy, talking to them, the team, the Against the Law team, about natural disasters in the ancient world and how people responded important to them, and not just eruptions of Vesuvius, but kind of also kind of more widely what kind of natural disasters might be imagined of both kind of natural causes and man-made ones. So enjoy that. I hope you do. We've got time, I think, for one more question before our half hour is up. How quickly do these times go? So we've had a question from Michael Jar. Is there any evidence of something like COVID and Spanish flu having happened in ancient times? Yes, there is. Sarah, you're 20 minutes late. You couldn't find the video, and yet we answered your question first off. You'll have to watch back when the recording goes on the Facebook page. Michael Jar's asking, any evidence of something like COVID and Spanish flu happening in ancient times? Well, yes, indeed, Michael, there is. Lots of examples, actually, of plagues spreading in some cases globally, and actually being much more severe than COVID has been, although, of course, COVID has been terrible for us across the world. But actually, in terms of numbers, kind of things like the Antonine Plague in 165, mid-2nd century AD, and the Justinian Plague in the 6th century, absolutely wiping out huge percentages of the Roman world as they moved across, and particularly with the Justinian Plague coming in waves across not just a number of years, but actually across a number of decades. As we now understand, most probably the virus itself was evolving and changing, and thus, of course, coming back against a non-vaccinated population that were having to repeatedly develop resistance to these different waves of infection. So kind of there were those kind of global pandemics, but there were also much more localized ones. And Rome itself, in some ways, was poorly situated, because the area where Rome is, right along the Tiber, is subject to very regular flooding. Now, the Romans did their best to kind of counteract this. One of the reasons they built the great drain that runs under the Forum, massive, huge drain tunnel, right from the earliest days of the Roman Republic, was to try and actually take some of those flood waters, stop Rome from flooding quite so much. Because one of the things, of course, that happens when you have flood waters, swampy earth, and then you get mosquitoes and you get malaria. And actually, Rome had huge problems each summer with malarial outbreaks following the flooding of the Tiber, even after the construction of the Great Drain. So kind of there were these localized problems of outbreaks just because of actual natural conditions. Then there were outbreaks because of people living cheek by jowl in pretty bad conditions with poor sanitation often. And then there were the big plagues that swept through from one side of the Roman Empire to another. Yes, indeed, it goes back to those times where we were thinking about the sorts of things that you were allowed to go to the Roman baths with. Yes, Bruno, that is the Cloaca Maxima, the Great Drain, absolutely, indeed. And we can tell from the architecture of it, even the earliest phases of the Great Drain were built much bigger than actually was needed to take the dirty water, if you like, from Rome at the time. It was built to take floodwaters as much as anything. You could go to a Roman baths with all sorts of open weeping sores, and it wasn't considered bad practice to turn up at all ill whatsoever. You certainly didn't need a negative lateral flow test before you rocked up at an ancient Roman bath. Our time is up. We had such a great question. So next time, we will have to save this for next time. Callum Henry, I wanted to get to your question. I've been meaning to get to this for a number of weeks, but you can all have a think about it before we come back for next time. Callum Henry was talking about how convincing a hero do you think Aeneas is? So there's a question I will leave with you, and we will come back and have a think about this at the next Q&A. How convincing a hero is Aeneas? Do we think Turnus is a better hero? From the Aeneid. So get out your Aeneid reading books. Have a think about it. Aeneas versus Turnus. Who is the better hero? I know we're robbed short of time, as always. A number of your questions I haven't had a chance to get to, but thank you so much indeed for tuning in. We keep them on the list, and we will come back to them the next time if we possibly can. Do not worry. Your sixth form was discussing this today, Aeneas versus Turnus. Well, send in a preview or a pre-see of their thoughts, Diane, through the Facebook page so we can bring them into the discussion when we come back next time. And the next time is going to be in 2 weeks' time, the 24th of March. at 5 p.m. So do join me 5 p.m. UK time, 24th of March, and we will be having another great Q&A where we will get stuck into, is it Aeneas versus Turnus? We will also be thinking about Christianity in the Roman Empire. How do we send a question, says Sophie? Just send one through email to michaelscottacademic@gmail.com or to the Facebook page. Just send a message to the Facebook page, Prof. Michael Scott, and we will get it. It will come to me, and we will have a look at it, and we will enjoy, and we will all answer your questions together. So I will see you on the 24th of March at 5 p.m. Take care of yourselves all in the meantime. So lovely to see you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Let you in on a little secret that I am off on my stag weekend this weekend. So if I'm looking a little green around the gills still in 2 weeks' time, you will know why. If you see me out and about, and as they've, I've ended up being chained to a lamppost in Aberystwyth, well, what can I say? Please be kind to me if you find me in need of help. But in the meantime, I'll see you all soon. Take care of yourselves and all the best.